All right, it looks like I think we're broadcasting now here, so we'll give some folks a minute here to get situated.
Sounds great.
So good weekend and everything?
Yeah, great weekend. Great weekend. Finally the smoke cleared out, huh?
Say it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Cool. So yeah, I think maybe just 30 more seconds just to allow people to kind of jump in and then
Perfect.
get in there.
Sounds good.
You guys got a busy week this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocking and rolling.
Cool. Well, good. Well, why don't we'll jump into it, get started. I think Gabrielle might need a minute or so, but we should be okay.
Perfect.
So thank you all for joining us here. I had the pleasure of being able to have a conversation with a good friend of mine, Lane Hornung, from he's got sort of a dual role now, right? Lane over at Zavvi and 8Z. And so today we're going to chat a little bit about unsticking the homeowner and creating more listings. But while we're kind of getting started here, if you guys that are joining, if you wouldn't mind even the chat box, just kind of sharing where you're coming from with your broker and agent. That way we can really kind of cater the conversation accordingly. But Lane, always good to catch up, man. But thanks for doing this here today.
Great. Glad to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
No, it's always a pleasure, my man. So why don't we, I guess to start, Lane, I think certainly somebody with your experience and background, I always like to kind of start off with just sharing some, if you wouldn't mind even kind of sharing the audience, what kind of led you up to this point. Tell them a little bit about sort of your story, because it's definitely an interesting one. I think that's going to help set the framework for the conversation for today.
Sure. I'll avoid going all the way back to my childhood, and I'll just start with how I got into real estate. I actually came into real estate from technology. Was working in Boulder, Colorado, went out to join a startup in the .com days called Zip Realty, and joined them when they were like 10 people. I was part of the founding executive team, and really I ran business development and marketing. So I was more on the lead gen side of things. And I think we figured out that the internet was a good lead generator for real estate way back then. And Zip was one of the first companies to put listings online. And that was, 10 years before the portals. So got that going, and then decided I wanted to get a little deeper into the real estate side. And so when I left Zip, moved back to Boulder, Colorado, got my license, hung it with Remax, and built a website that started generating leads online here in Colorado. Had some success with that, and then went out on my own as an independent broker. Formed 8Z about just over a decade ago, and so I've been growing the brokerage at 8Z. We're a strong independent brokerage here along the Front Range of Colorado. Got some great realtors, highly productive realtors with 160 some odd realtors on any given day. We do about 1.3 billion in volume, and so we have a lot of fun. Great team, great group of realtors, and then spun out Zavvi kind of in response when the iBuyers started coming into our market, and kind of looking at that as, okay, how do we play ball with these new options that are becoming available for sellers? So that's a quick overview of my background. So a little bit of tech, Mike, a little bit of real estate. I kind of live in that place where those two things come together.
No, that's awesome, man. That's one of the things I've always valued about our conversations, and I think your perspective, you've got a very unique one in the sense that you've got a ton of experience on both sides of the house, right? The tech side as well as from operating at a brokerage level as well. So I think that's I appreciate you sharing that. So
yeah, I mean it's not theory to me, right? The technology's got to work in the field. Otherwise, technology for technology's sake in real estate is wastes everyone's time, right?
Totally, man. So no, we're good. Well, let's jump into then the bulk of the conversation here. I know we're going to talk a little bit about this whole idea around unstucking the homeowner, and then create more listings. I guess even just for a quick background, Lane, share a little bit about how do you think about that? Like even at a high level, what does that kind of mean to you? and then we can get into a little bit more detail.
Sure. I think as we look around at the real estate landscape, the elephant in the room and probably the biggest single driver, almost anybody involved in the industry, is that the average homeownership tenure, as we came out of the 2008 downturn correction, from 2008 to today, that average tenure has grown from 6 years to 10. And in some cases, some studies say it's 12 years. So whether it's 10 or 12 or 11, it's a lot longer than it used to be. Yeah. And that's really, that in turn, we don't have a lot of inventory. I think, no matter where anybody is calling or joining from on this webinar, pretty safe bet we'd say, hey, I'll bet you have a tight inventory market, and pretty safe bet that we'd win that bet. So no matter where people are joining from. So, that's what at a very high level, I think that's the biggest challenge facing the industry. I don't think, the challenges facing the industry are disruption or, the myriad of things we read about on the trade press and on Inman and stuff. I actually think every day we wake up, if you're in the industry and you go, where do I get more inventory? Where's that coming from? How do I have more product to sell? So that's how I think about it. I think it's the major driver.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about that a little bit, in terms of how to, how are you thinking about, really, and probably both sides of the house, right? Even at HZ, as well as how you guys are approaching it at Zavvy, but how are you guys thinking about that, or, from around, creating or winning more listings at this point?
Yeah. So when you look at it, Mike, there's a few different approaches, right? One would be kind of the passive. You just kind of wait around and wait for inventory to be created. So if you read, a lot of industry analysis at kind of the macro level, it's, the builders are behind, but home starts are up. So we're going to wait for them to build more product. Good luck. We've been hearing that for 10 years. They just have a lot of challenges, lack of land, hard to get entitlements. They typically are building at a higher price point because that's where the profitability is these days, with the cost of labor and entitlements. So I don't think waiting around for the builders is really a great option. You could wait around for other agents to put listings on the market. Right? I think, of course, by default, that's what you do. You're waiting. I think most agents at my brokerage right now have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 buyers that are just waiting on new listings to come on. Every day they get up and say, oh, what's new? And so, that's a passive strategy. Of course, it's, if it's your only option, then it's your only option. But, I was a Marine, so I don't like sitting around waiting. I like to get a little proactive. I like to go on the attack. And so one way to go on the attack is, and really go out there and create listings, is you've got a database of homeowners. Every one of those homeowners is a potential seller. So it's really about engaging with those homeowners. And my hypothesis is that many homeowners think they're stuck. The reason the average tenure has gone from 6 to 11 or 12 years is there's a variety of reasons, but one of the primary reasons is the seller just thinks it's too hard. The homeowner just thinks it's too hard to sell. It's too big of a hassle. And, or, they know that inventory is tight, so they're worried about that chicken and egg problem. If I sell, where am I going? And so, I think we can get into a little bit in detail this idea of talking to homeowners. Let's start with some profiles of who those homeowners are, and then think about paths we can show them to get on the seller journey. I know you like to talk journeys, Mike, so I want to talk journeys with you.
Well, look, when you talk customer journeys, you're speaking my language, right? So no, I love it. So how are you guys thinking about that now? Like, how are you guys thinking about approaching that around, especially with this whole mindset of this, given the current environment where we're looking at this pent up demand, we're dealing with the shortage of inventory, and you got the homeowner that maybe not aware of all of their options at this point in time. Like, how do you guys go about that? Like, how would you think about that?
Yeah. So first, let's start with, I always like to start with the consumer, right? Let's start with those homeowners. And maybe if you're, if you're listening in and you're an agent practicing, think about your database. Actually, I'd open up your database and look at names. Always kind of jog people's thought process. So, think about the homeowners in your database, and let's start profiling them. Let's break it down a little bit. So one is that homeowner I mentioned who's worried about the chicken and egg. They're frozen because they don't know where they're going to go. So let's think about, okay, what could you bring to the table for a homeowner who's the chicken and egg problem is the main issue. And I think that the best solution in that case is often a bridge solution. There's, the bridge solutions that are coming to the forefront. And I think that was one of the real big things that happened during COVID. Zavvy, we have a platform that brings all selling options to the table. Makes it easy for an agent to bring all selling options to the table for their homeowner. And one of those selling options that's really getting a lot of traction right now, and is bridge, and the new modern bridge is not a bridge loan. So if you've been in the business as long as I have, bridge loans, you had to have a ton of assets. And by the time you got approved for the bridge loan, you might as well just buy your house because you had all the cash anyway. Yeah. These are true innovative, fintech products that allow a seller to move first, to purchase and move and get into their new home, and then put their existing home on the market and get full market price. So that's a great solution for the chicken and egg seller. And then we can break down some other profiles of sellers, but I at least want to throw that one out there.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the bridge is one that probably I would venture to say that, a large majority of people may not even know that that's an option or even what it is, right? So, Lane, what from a bridge point of view, who would you say right now, especially now, I would say over the last couple of months, who are you guys seeing as as an ideal target, or ideal profile of a homeowner that would be a good match for a bridge solution?
There's a couple. One profile is that upwardly mobile buyer. They own property. Maybe they're in their first home, and what I would call them is the first time seller. So a lot of time and effort is spent on studying the first time buyer. I care a lot about the first time seller. So let's say you're a first time seller. You bought after 2008. So you're probably sitting on a lot of equity because, whatever market, again, I could throw a dart and there's probably pretty good appreciation if you've owned your home 7, 8, 5, 6 years. Yeah. So you got a lot of equity, you're moving up and you're moving into a tight inventory market, multiple offer market, and bridge in some cases, depending on the solution provider, would let you go in with cash. Buy that, certainly non-contingent though. So it makes you more competitive on the buy side, and then gives you the convenience to move out at your leisure. A lot of first-time sellers, they got kids and pets and dogs and all that, and so moving is a major logistical event, and you take a lot of pressure off them when you allow them to move and then sell. So that's a good profile. Strong buyer, a lot of equity, good financial position. There's another profile of the seller, unfortunately, that is not as rosy, and that would be the seller who has equity, but they took maybe a financial hit during COVID. They're reeling a little bit, maybe got laid off, maybe took a pay cut. Maybe, independent contractor type business that's, really hurting, travel, hospitality, event planning, something like that. And they need to kind of get back on their feet, but they got equity. So some of the bridge providers will just come in, buy their home, let them stay in it, rent it back, and kind of get settled again before they move to their next place. So those are two profiles that we see with bridge that really, again, it's all about, they may think they're stuck until as an agent, you show up with a path for them and they go, didn't know about that.
Yeah.
that's going to really help me out. That might be a viable option for me.
No, so let's talk about that for a second there. So I know this is a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing at Zavvy.
Yeah.
How are you empowering agents to educate their clients that this is a viable option? Like how are you guys doing that, at least at Zavvy's point of view?
Yeah, so I'll start with at Zavvy. We believe first and foremost, agents should stay at the center as these new options come to the table. Rather than sellers going directly to the solution providers, which is really confusing for them. You think it's confusing for us, keeping up with it all. And we're in the industry. We live and breathe this. It's really hard for a consumer to keep up with it. So, we believe agents should bring all the options. We think we're creating the modern agent. And my belief is that the modern agent will have a lot of different tricks, a lot of different arrows in their quiver beyond just open market. An open market listing, yeah, that's tried and true. That's not going away. But there's these new solutions that agents need to understand and bring to the table for their clients to maybe get them unstuck, to maybe move them from being a homeowner to a seller. And, one of those is bridge. Another is the iBuyers. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and fear and, trepidation around the iBuyers. But, let's take the profile of a seller. Again, go back to, let's start with a consumer. Let's go back to another profile, Mike. And that is the seller who is just overwhelmed by the prospect of selling on the open market. Especially, in the COVID world, you got to worry about making sure you got your mask and all that. The idea of selling your home and opening it up to people is just boom, their mind blows up, their head explodes. But some of them need to move. Some of them would like to move. And so an iBuyer offer, an instant sale offer, could bring the speed and convenience to that seller, to that homeowner that might unlock them, and turn them into a seller. So, and here's a couple myths about iBuyers, right? There's this myth that the consumer, your seller has to choose between you or the iBuyer. No, your seller wants you to stay with them. You're their client. They actually want you to represent them while selling to an iBuyer, and they'll pay you for it. Again, let me repeat. Your seller will pay you to represent them when selling to an iBuyer, because they want you in their corner. They want you representing them. They only do this once every 10, 11 years. And, iBuyers make it easier, but it's still selling a home. We're not like ordering an Uber here. It's still selling a home. It's fairly complicated. They need someone to help them out, hold their hand.
Totally. I'm glad we got that on recording here of you getting that in. I appreciate that. So
you think about it, sellers need representation, even more so when there's all these new options, right? They need someone to hold their hand, advise them. Hey, here's the pluses and minuses of this option. Here's the pluses and minuses of bridge. Here's the pluses and minuses, the pros and cons of selling to an iBuyer. Here's the pros and cons of going straight to the open market. Again, I'm your guide. You're going to make the decision, but I'm going to give you some pretty good counsel. Yeah. And every seller is different, people I always hear like, why would anyone sell to an iBuyer and leave money on the table? Well, maybe because that money there, is not, there's something else driving them. They need to, I tell a story, one of the clients that one of our broker partners at Zavvy was working with needed, own the home outright, but needed to get his special needs kid into the right school, and had about 2 weeks to do it. What's that worth to him? Yeah. A lot. Sure. So is he stupid? No, he's making the decision that made the most sense for him.
Yeah, totally. So one thing you mentioned there that reminded me of some of the conversations you and I have had previously. Can you give the people listening context certainly in terms of what you tend to see around the traditional breakdown between the open market to and then to either bridge or iBuyer? Just give it context, like out of 10 offers or 10 10 deals, like, or 20 or 30, whatever that is,
Yeah.
what's the typical breakdown that you see where an iBuyer type situation might pop up here?
Yeah, it's about 1 out of 20, and that's 1 out of 20 will take the instant offer of an iBuyer. You know, we think if you're going to get one instant offer, it makes sense to get all of them. Just like when you go on the open market, you know, you don't limit yourself to one buyer. You as a listing agent, you bring as many buyers as you can. Nothing changed here. Bring as many offers, but it's about 1 out of 20. And so, you know, I like to put that in kind of, you know, the context for a realtor. If the modern agent does 20 deals a year, and by the way, the modern agent's what we see right coming out of COVID is the most professional agents who understand all these options and can navigate these different solutions they're going to take market share. And so the, you know, productivity numbers are going to go up for the producers. But let's call it 20. You know, if you're an agent on this webinar and you're doing 40 or 60, great, just double and triple the math and congratulations. But let's say 20. That means, you know, you do 20 deals a year, you might add 1 or 2 extra where you unlocked a seller, a homeowner, you unstuck them, and they ended up selling to an iBuyer. Now you're doing 22. You're probably not going to sell 20 more deals to an iBuyer, but 1 or 2. Bridge, I think, has a broader appeal, is what we're seeing in the marketplace. Bridge is more accessible to a lot of sellers, and so you might be able to unlock 3 or 4 or 5 sellers with Bridge. So now we're, you know, instead of doing 20 deals, you do 20 pure open market. You add a couple iBuyer transactions, and you add 4 or 5 Bridge transactions, and that unlocked, you know. You move from 20 to 27, maybe you catch a couple buyers on those extra listings, and now you're at 30. Yeah. And I think we're going to see that those modern agents are really going to thrive with these new solutions. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. And look, that's one of the things I always found, you know, really interesting when we were talking about it, because, you know, if an agent or a brokerage has an opportunity right now, especially in this environment where there's such a shortage of inventory and the impact we all know on transactions, that there's an opportunity now to unlock 20, 25% more. I don't know anybody who would kind of look down on that, right? Like I would welcome that. And then I think that's a lot of it just comes down to really the educational aspect of this and understanding one at the agent and brokerage level, but also educating their clients that this is a very viable option depending on circumstance. So yeah,
huge education component, Mike. You know, I mean, Zavvy, we work with the tool at, you know, our platform, our tools that agents use, you know, right in the living room or on a Zoom call with their clients. But as we've talked about, there's quite a bit of laying the groundwork prior to that, and I think that's where, you know, ActivePipe is so effective at kind of that content, you know, laying the groundwork. Hey, there are these new options out here. I mean, you guys really tee it up so an agent could have an easy conversation with someone in their sphere, a homeowner in their sphere, because they've already kind of been brought up to speed a little bit. This isn't like completely new to them when they jump on that Zoom call and sit down, and, you know, we call it the offer optimizer. You just sit down and look at the options all in one place, and that's kind of cool. You know, I could show you what that looks like, and that might be sort of interesting. But, you know, I really like what ActivePipe does, because you tailor the content to the individual homeowner. And like I said, we already talked about 2 profiles. One is, you know, the chicken and egg seller, and then the stuck due to the chicken and egg, and the other is stuck due to just it's too big of a hassle, it's overwhelming. So both those probably require a little different content, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think on a very simple level, right, you can offer 2 different types of segmentation and then take each of them down a different journey depending on, you know, their profile, their segmentation. So yeah, no,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think. Oh, go ahead.
No. Were you about to share?
Oh yeah, let me see. You know, we'll see if we can figure out the the technical challenges, and I'm a tech guy, right? So here we go. This is what it kind of looks like at 8Z. But you know, Zavvy, we work with broker partners all over the country. We have, now we have over 30,000 agents on the platform using this and using it in the living room, like I said, or using it on a Zoom call. And so this is what we call our offer optimizer. Really easy for the agent. Just put an address in, approximate home value, condition, hit go. And then what you've got is these different options for selling. So open market, always, the tried and true first choice. Bridge, buy before you sell, costs you a little bit. Instant sale, again, it's gonna, you're not gonna net as much, but the iBuyers are making very, very competitive offers. And for some sellers, 1 out of 20, that could be a great option. Maybe, maybe 2. Again, your job is to bring all the solutions to the table and then advise them and represent them all the way through to closing and be paid for it. And in our model, you get paid the same no matter which option they take. We see every day consumers wanting agents to represent them, and they are willing to pay them a commission as their listing agent. So if that's in your head that you're kind of stuck on that, you need to get past it. But you can just see that everything's all in one place, makes the conversation really easy. What I would say is, and we could send this out to anybody who wants it. Whether you've got Zavvy as, your brokerage has Zavvy as a tool and a platform or not, we have some just really straightforward scripts that we could share with folks that go, along the lines of, hey, things have been kind of moving fast in our industry since COVID. We've been innovating in our industry, and there's some new solutions for selling that are out there. I'd love to jump on a Zoom call and take 10 minutes to tell you about them.
Yeah.
Every client in your database will get on that call, and all of a sudden you're having a selling conversation. Does that mean they're going to, list tomorrow? No, but one, it's going to cement your relationship with them as a modern agent. Like, wow, nobody else brought this to my attention. I've heard the ads on the radio. I didn't know what the deal was, but I'm glad you kind of clarified it for me. I'm not ready to sell right now, but you know what? I actually might want to see those offers. Could you go get those offers for me?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, what I love about that is you're empowering the agent to lead with value, right? You're leading with value and presenting some things that maybe the homeowner wasn't aware of, previously. So, Lynn, I know we're coming up on time here shortly. I want to make sure we open up to questions, but what I always love to ask here is that, look, I always love hearing this stuff, and I've always, as I mentioned, enjoyed our conversations, but I'd love to take this one step further. And I always ask, if there's 1 or 2 things that are super tactical, whether that's an agent or a broker, that they could literally go and implement today or tomorrow, what would you recommend there? What would be a tip there that might be very, very tactical?
Yeah, so what I would recommend is, and maybe some folks were doing it while we were on the call, I would recommend you pull 2 or 3 names out of your database, homeowners that are just, clients of yours. They haven't raised their hand yet and said, hey, Lane, I want to sell. Check in with them and say exactly what I just said. Hey, love to jump on Zoom with you for 15 minutes. There's some new options for selling, including iBuyers, including, depending on your market, bridge solutions.
Yeah.
I'd at least like to kind of tell you about them, so you have that knowledge. And plus, I just want to check in with you and make sure everything's good. And I'll give you a little update on the market while we're at it.
Yeah.
And I think if you did that 3 times, you'll get a listing.
Mm-hmm.
One of those will actually turn into a listing.
That's a pretty good conversion rate there, Lane. You were saying 33%, if I did the math correctly.
That is 33.33, Mike.
There you go.
Repeating. No, I really do. It's a super easy conversation to have.
Yeah.
I think people, when you think about, and then the next step, which is depending on what market you're in, but if you're in a market where the iBuyers are making offers and that, is increasing, the iBuyers are fully back in all their markets and expanding their footprints. And there's also regional iBuyers and coming to the fore. At Zavvy, we put all this in one place to make it easy. But, you know, if you say, hey, would you like me to actually go get an offer for you? Sure, why not? I mean, everybody wants to see what's in the envelope. And then all of a sudden, you know, as a practicing agent, I would say, how do you turn a buyer sitting on the sidelines into an active buyer? You show them a house they love. They go from, you know, on the fence to writing a contract that day. How do you, the modern equivalent is, how do you turn a homeowner into a seller? You show them an offer they like.
Yeah, totally. Oh no, it's fantastic, man. So, and I'll go further with this and say that, you know, if somebody gets a listing this way, let us know and we'll feature this on blog or something like that. Maybe we'll do that together. How's that?
No, I would love to. I would love to hear the story and, you know, and reward the person. I mean, real estate's a contact sport. It's not a theory sport. It's like, get out there and do it, and somebody should be rewarded for taking action. So totally. There's a nice dinner in there for me if someone, you know, follows through and gets a listing out of it. Love hearing success in the field.
Yeah, that's great. Again, this is recorded, so I love that.
Yeah,
so,
we're on record. I'm on record.
We're on record here.
By the way, for the record, my nice dinner might not be your nice dinner, Mike.
Yeah, I doubt that, but that's okay. I doubt that. So, well, good, man. Well, listen, I want to open up to a few questions here and spend some time with that. So I know we've got one from Stephen here asking, where do you find the bridge loan calculator? Is that proprietary to 8Z?
Yeah, so that bridge loan calculator, Stephen, that is all part of the Zavvy platform. So our Zavvy platform puts it all in one place and makes you look super smart as an agent because we do all the calculations in the background. We actually keep track of iBuyer transactions in the market. We kind of know what they're spending or what their offers look like based on actual transactions. So you know, the easy thing would be go ask your broker if you can have Zavvy and reach out to us. That's my shameless plug. But the other solution might be to talk to one of the bridge providers directly. Oh, great, Stephen, you have Zavvy. So depending on which partner you're with right now, you may not have the bridge solution provider on your platform yet, and we can add that for you. So, and that was one of the things I was saying, Mike. What we saw during COVID is of our, you know, broker partners all around the country, many of them are adding bridge as an option to their platform because the consumers like it.
Sure. Yeah, so it's very timely right now. So yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. No, appreciate the question, Stephen. If there are any other questions right now, we'll give it a few minutes. Feel free to throw it in the chat or in the Q&A button down the bottom.
Yeah, and some of the bridge providers, depending on your market, are, you know, the leading ones in the country are Easy Knock, Homeward, Ribbon, and Knock is rolling out, you know, a bridge solution as well. So those are really the leaders in the space.
No, that's great. I mean, look, being able to put out valuable content, you know, with that is, I think, it's extremely important. I mean, content is also, you know, something that's really obviously important to us. You know, we facilitate the distribution of content, but, you know, through our most recent acquisition with Home Prezo and real estate content, you know, we have quite a bit of iBuyer, you know, type stuff there, as well as, you know, based on the different personas and profiles that you talked about there. So I think it's very, very, very relevant to us as well.
So hey, Gretchen, good to see your name there with Drysdale out in California and a Zavvy partner. Gretchen, Easy Knock, Homeward, Ribbon, and Knock, you know, are some of the leaders for sure. Just I saw you chatted in.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, there's no question, Mike. This is very much a, you know, a moving upstream and always having these relationships with your clients to educate them, and that's what Active Pipe, you guys are so good at. The modern agent doesn't wait for their client to raise their hand once every 10 years and say, hey, Lane, I'd like to transact, you know, now. The modern agent is educating them the whole time, communicating with them, keeping them up to speed, and the changes in real estate, they're just getting started. I mean, it's going to be a fun next few years. The innovation is just exciting. It's going to be great for agents. You know, agents shouldn't fear that. They should embrace it.
No, absolutely, man. I think you're spot on there. So Lane, it looks like we got another question from Zach here saying that a client that uses Bridge has to pay rent to Homeward on the original property until it sells, correct?
Correct. What's nice is, and it depends, I won't get into all the nuances of each type of bridge solution, but it allows the homeowner to stay in their home until they're ready to move in their next home. And depending on, you know, their exact scenario, they can pay the rent out of closing proceeds. So it makes it easier for them. They're not paying 2 mortgages and that sort of thing. You know, and we are in strong markets. We all know that if you have a listing, pretty good chance you're going to sell it. So those, you know, costs of rent backs and stuff can really be bundled into the closing. And it makes it, again, easier on the reason people are stuck in my opinion, the biggest reason is because it's just too big of a hassle to sell.
Sure. No, that's great. I'll leave it. Are there any other questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A. We'll give it another minute or so. I don't want to let Lane off too easy here.
Yeah, no, ask some tough ones. I like tough questions, but you know what I think we're seeing too, Mike, is one thing to add. If you're sitting there and you're in a market that is maybe the iBuyers, the big 3 iBuyers aren't in. Yeah, Susan, perfect timing. You're in you can't find an iBuyer solution in your market. And so the big 3, Zillow Offers, OfferPad, and Open Door, they're in, you know, a little over 26, 27 markets when you kind of combine them all. So if you're not in one of those markets, what's kind of cool at Zavvy, we actually have some other iBuyers, large, you know, they also have billions in capital, and they buy in markets all over the country, much broader footprint than where the big 3 are going. So we have national iBuyers that buy in small markets across the South and the Southwest, and it's a little trickier up in the Northeast, but so there are iBuyers that really cover the whole country, and we could help you out with that, Susan.
Very cool.
Great. And the bridge, what's cool about the bridge providers is they're able to scale faster. So like Easy Knock is a national solution. They're in every market.
Yeah, great. Well, awesome, man. Well, Lane, always a pleasure. Always enjoy catching up. Thanks for spending the time here today. And
enjoyed it, Mike. I want to see if anybody gets a listing out of this.
I think we need to do so. If somebody does, please let us know. Please let either Lane or myself know, or either at Zavvy or ActivePipe. And yeah, I think we'd love to feature that, especially off the back of what Lane mentioned here today.
Love to buy somebody dinner remotely.
Yeah, there you go. No. Well, listen, thank you everybody for joining us. And Lane, thank you again, man. We'll love to stay in touch and love to see how this pans out.
Great, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Have a good day, man.